What's up, everybody? It is yours truly, Mr. Marvel here, and on this week's edition of the Marvel Roundtable, we go back into Disney Plus streaming as we take a look at the origins of a new character, or characters, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we explore the sands of Egypt and take a look at Marc Spector, Stephen Grant, and the bizarre, mysterious character known as Moon Knight, right here on the Marvel Roundtable. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Marvel Roundtable right here on the Horny Goat YouTube channel. And, of course, the Horny Goat Podcast Network, where you can listen to us on all your favorite podcasting platforms, such as Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, and so many others. This is, of course, the Marvel Roundtable, where we deep dive into every single Marvel cinematic movie and TV show on Disney Plus that ties in, of course, to the giant Marvel Cinematic Universe. I am not alone. I am joined here by the wonderful cohorts of the Horny Goat crew. I've got with me the tattooed mama herself, Heather, and everyone's favorite bear from upstairs, Canadian Basement. How you guys doing this evening?
Just finished.
Seriously, I think was it Spider-Man that you like just finished before you got on, or was it the one? Was it Hawkeye?
It was a TV show of some form. It
so it must have been Hawkeye, right? Where you like literally just finished it 20 minutes before.
Not even. It was like 10 minutes before, and he's like, "I literally just finished this."
I finished it 30 minutes before.
I would love to know what Basement's like thesis papers in college would have looked like.
I just finished.
Why is this dated today? No reason. Here you go.
Yeah, man. Procrastination. That's where it's at. At least I get it done.
Well, I was going to say, you can use the excuse of, I get to absorb it, and then actually, I get to...
In this case, it actually is helpful, I feel.
In some ways it does, I think. Because I remember...
Having it that fresh in your mind, it is. I mean, I finished watching it last night.
I watched it a while ago, and I'm still going off
of...
See, at this point now, it's just light refreshers for me, because I've seen everything, obviously, but now this is obviously still fresh in my mind because, fun fact, we are now at a, the stage where we're starting on a show or a Marvel property that was airing the time we started the Marvel Roundtable. It's a weird thing to say out loud. But yeah, we started this at the beginning. We started the Marvel Roundtable at the beginning of the year, and this came out in March of this year. So we're actually now coming full swing, and we are that much closer to ending this torture that I'm putting my friends through.
I left after this.
Yep.
I missed the beginning.
What you missed the beginning? I missed
the beginning was better.
I miss when I had the option to say no. But this one is spoilers. This is one of my little personal nugget favorites, and we'll get into why. And I'm sure Heather and Basement will remind me why it's not that great. But we'll get into the specifics. But Moon Knight is a unique situation, not only because it's another Disney Plus show that we're going back to, but more importantly, if I'm not mistaken, with outside the confines of like another bigger character that's already been established. This is the first time that Marvel is introducing in a series anyway, a brand new character. We haven't had anything like that since Shang-Chi and the Eternals, where we're introducing a new genre, a new character, a new setting, a new environment without the support of like another character that's already been well established. In fact, I was telling this to Heather a little bit before we got on here. One of the reasons I really like this show, spoilers, and I'll throw it to Basement Head as far as their thoughts, is that there's very little to no big Marvel connection in the show. So you don't see like there goes the Hulk, there's Black Panther, there's Thor just coming in to wave and say hi and then leave. There's no like, they're not like leaning on any other major property. It's kind of as standalone-ish in the MCU as it can be right now, which... That's part of the reason why I kind of like it, personally. But what did you guys think?
It's more than just standalone-ish. It is standalone because, one, he's never been seen, and two, we know very little about him, and three, there were literally no major Marvel characters in this show.
None. There was a couple of small, and I do mean very small Easter eggs that revert to like two things, but they're blink and you miss them moments. Other than that, they're not prominently there.
Yeah. And with that being said, I mean, this show had the potential to be fucking amazing.
Yeah, yep.
But then episode 2 happened, and then it just went downhill from there and didn't pick up again until episode 5. For me.
5 was my favorite, for the record, so I get where you're coming from. Basement, what about you? What's your overall reaction to, without going into too much detail yet, of Moon Knight?
Such a weird thing, because like
it really is.
It's separated from the Marvel universe, but oddly, the thing that hurts the most is that it's connected to the Marvel universe.
Oh, yeah.
No, like it just feels like you could have gone so much further with this idea.
Yeah.
Yet they still have to have it grounded within like the confines of the Marvel universe. I know it doesn't. I know there's no like Easter eggs or people popping out of here or there, but it has to be something that can eventually connect. The premise lends itself to being completely balls to the walls crazy. But honestly, the worst part about Moon Knight, the show, is Moon Knight.
What part of Moon Knight, though?
I think Ethan Hawke, but that's me.
The mid side, or is it the action side?
The fucking superhero character of Moon Knight is the worst part of Moon Knight. In all honesty.
I don't know. I think the antagonist was the worst part, to be honest. My opinion, and it sucks because, to be honest, we'll get in there, but like Ethan Hawke in a, I know he wasn't, but it looked so fucking phoned in, but.
He looked like a lesbian activist.
It was intriguing to me. I don't know what it was, but he's just like, we're gonna go and do this. I'm like, that's like the range. That what I just said there was the range of his emotion for like the entire show, which
it's kind of like a non-entity.
Yeah. Actually, Basement just said it right. Yeah, he almost non-existent.
But a lot of the show hinges on him, and it's so weird when you put him up against like Oscar Isaac, who is really the best thing about this fucking show.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, now you have this performance that's all over the fucking place in Oscar Isaac, and then you have this performance that's like he could be replaced by a block of wood with long, flowing hair. And
it is such a weird.
And sandals. The sandals were like really focused on
glass sandals.
A lot.
Get it right, glass sandals. I'm right there with you. Like I remember telling Heather and Basement when we were starting the Marvel Roundtable and we watched the first 2 episodes together, and we'll get there, but obviously CGI was not the best in the first episode at the very least. We'll get there. We'll get there. But I kept saying how like I felt like the show really picked up, and I did get a chance to go back and look at it again, with more clearer eyes and not in the what do you call it, the honeymoon phase, and
the divorce phase.
Separation. Go to hell, hun. Already there, dear. It's the writing in terms of like the arc story is really what hurts it in terms of like we got to stop the antagonist is the biggest, like for me anyway, was the biggest like letdown.
Mm-hmm.
But Oscar,
there's a gem.
What's that?
There's a gem hidden within there.
Oscar Isaac's performance is fucking insane, and so much so that, and I felt like it was just, I brought this up because I actually, they have all the Marvel, what do you call it, like the behind the scenes stuff where you can look at like the shows and stuff, like the making of, and that one I watched, and it was what I found out was very interesting was when Oscar Isaac did the between Steven and Mark, they would cut it originally where they would have him like stop, switch to the other personality, and then do that voice or whatever, and then it got to the point where he could just do it instantly in one felt swoop.
You kind of see that as the show goes on too.
Yep, and it's fascinating, and it's just I cannot suck his dick enough. Oscar Isaac fucking crushed it in this show.
It's like as a performance, it's great. As a show, they failed.
Yep.
They failed the performer, in my mind. And like, I mean, the weird thing is too, Ethan Hawke, I find, is a good actor.
Yes.
They
yes.
just gave him nothing.
Yes. That's
at all.
there's pieces of it that I wish could have helped flushed out other pieces that weren't as good. But for me, and also I'm biased because I'm a big nerd when it comes to Egyptian mythology. So I'm like, fucking sign me up. So part of me was already like loving it even before the first episode dropped. So full bias on that one as far as my credibility or lack thereof. Who I don't have any credibility. What are we
I didn't go into that enough either. Like the story, like the meat and potatoes of this thing is fucking crap.
It's an origin story. It's one giant origin story is the problem. And so everything else takes a back seat. Literally everything else takes a back seat.
Even the origin story that they're telling, is, in my opinion, isn't done anywhere as close as good as it could have been.
No, well, they tried to. I think what
there's
they were
a lot of like shock and awe in this show that
right
actually hurts the story more than it helps it.
That's where I was going to lead to, was the fact that I think what they were trying to do was they were trying to hook you in as long as possible for the swerve of how everything came to be, which I don't know about you guys, but by the second episode, I quickly figured out what the swerve was probably going to be.
Yes.
There's one particular line that made me go like, well, if that's the case, then but either way, I think what they were trying to do was they were trying to pull the audience along with the idea of like, what the fuck is really happening? What the fuck is going on? Up until where episode 6 is, fucking have at it. And I applaud them for trying, but there's just, I'm sure I know Heather was saying this because she's like, the show fucking dragged, and she's right. Especially after like, I'd say like the episode 2, definitely episode 2. 3 and 4. 3 helped a little bit. 4 definitely helped more. 5 was just yes, and then 6 was like, I mean, like kablooey.
The track record for Marvel is the same. Yes, the content's different enough, but like the track record is if you don't have 4 hours of content, don't make a 4-hour fucking thing.
Exactly.
I think this is I haven't seen Werewolf by Night yet,
but that's only an hour long or something.
For it, and frankly, no.
I'm still gonna watch it.
I think it's only like a one-off, 40 minutes or something.
Yeah,
right.
But my point is that like, I would depending on the character, and I've actually heard this too, that because of Werewolf by Night's success, that they actually might, instead of doing these mega shows, they'll do, not mega shows.
They're going towards those specials.
Yes, they'll go towards like the one-off specials as far as like the Werewolf by Night, which I would much rather prefer depending on the character and the story. Because, what's up, JP?
Hi, JP. Hi, JP.
That, like, there are certain characters and certain stories that you can tell where you can still hit your origin story, you're establishing X, Y, and Z, and you're setting up the future without having to deal with like episode 2 and 3 made me want to sleep. And this isn't the only show that's guilty of that either. I think almost all the Marvel shows are guilty.
This is Marvel's track record is they cannot write a show.
Yeah.
They can write an episode, but they can't write a show. And it's like time and time again where it's like, okay, I've got to sit through fucking 18 decades of garbage and then get like something that's good, and that's that. So like, I mean, I thought like at what point in time do people like stop forgiving them?
When the money stops, or they stop announcing
the money
shit.
Slowed down, in all honesty.
Well, we'll see.
I think the money's slowed down. But it's like WWE. They've established.
Basically. Shout out to all the wonderful peeps in the chat. We got Alpha. We got Federico. We've got The Real Cody. I see our good friend Tim joining us in there. Don't die on me. Thank you all for tuning in, guys and gals. Let us know your thoughts also. We did throw the poll up in the chat. Thumbs up or thumbs down for Moon Knight. Let us know. And, of course, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button because we got so much fun stuff coming out the wazoo. And we're getting close. We're almost done with being caught up with the Marvel Roundtable. It's getting kind of scary. It's getting kind of crazy. But with that being said, let's talk about a couple of quick, small pre-production notes when it comes to Senior Moon Knight. Now, The character apparently was supposed to be introduced in the planned second season of the Blade series before its cancellation back in 2006. A potential spin-off series for the character had also been in development in October. Marvel partnered with No Equal Entertainment to produce a separate television series featuring Moon Knight. However, as you probably heard from this story multiple times when it comes to Marvel reacquiring their properties, it was a situation where, like, oh, it's been rumbling. Oh, it's been this. It's going to do that. It's going to be tied into this. And then Marvel, like, scooped all their toys back up. So in August of 2019, Marvel Studios announced at the D23 conference that a series based on Moon Knight was being developed for the streaming services on Disney+. That November, Jeremy Slater was hired to serve as the head writer and executive producer of the series, which consisted of 6 40 to 50-minute episodes. Egyptian director Mohammed Daib was set to direct 4 of the episodes, as well as executive produce the series. Marvel approached him out of the blue to present a pitch to Moon Knight, which includes Egyptian mythology and characters that the superhero is associated with in the comics. Now, it looks like in February of last year, Feige had also said some Marvel series, including Moon Knight and She-Hulk, were being developed with the potential to have an additional season made, in contrast to series like WandaVision, which were developed as limited events that led into feature films instead. So, just as of total disparity here, at the time of this recording, there is no officially confirmed season 2 for Moon Knight, but as we'll get to the end of this, they left the fucking door wide fucking open. But that being said, there was another note I was going to make about. I already mentioned about the whole Oscar Isaac being able to switch back and forth. But other than that, this is kind of, like I said before, this is Marvel's stab at producing or introducing a new genre and character that we haven't seen since Shang-Chi and the Eternals. Everything else has been,
And to that point, Shang-Chi and the Eternals versus this has the most interesting lead.
Yeah.
Like Shang-Chi, the lead is fucking, he could be replaced with a piece of paper. Eternals, all of them could be replaced with a stack of paper.
Some.
No. Eternals is a little bit of like, yeah. But there's so many that it's like all they are one note. Unfortunately, this one, it's not a one note character. And
no,
therefore, it had the highest potential in my mind.
It did.
So, personally speaking, before we get into episode 1, the main reason I like this so much is because, not because it's good. Great way to sell the series. It's because it's different. And I know that Marvel has, and still is, experimenting with something that's totally different, which at the end of the day, good, bad, or indifferent, I have to give them credit for at least trying to go different directions with their characters. Hell, we'll talk about it when we get to She-Hulk, but even She-Hulk makes fun of that trope of what Marvel does as far as the way they do things. And so to have...
That's a good thing.
What's that?
I don't know if that's a good thing, making fun of yourself and continuing to do it.
We'll get there. We'll get there. But the reason that the Moon Knight for me was so intriguing was that, you look at all, if you look at all the I think one of the reasons why the Avengers worked in terms of, and then in the MCU itself is because of the vastness of the characters and the establishment of them. Not all of them got the same establishment. Not all of them have the same backstory, but let's face it, they all kind of like find their way to becoming who they're supposed to be, right? Like I know that's, I'm generally paraphrasing, but this is so very not the case in this case. And as like I've mentioned before with other Marvel properties, this opens up the door a lot, especially on the supernatural side of things. I mean, yeah, we've seen, and we'll talk about it next time with Doctor Strange. But we have and Scarlet Witch to an extent with WandaVision, but we haven't really explored the supernatural side of Marvel as thoroughly as other sides. So that's the other part, is that this could open up the whole, this could be a pivot for, Ghost Rider coming on into the MCU. This could be a pivot for the Midnight Suns coming into the MCU. So, could be that.
Sorry. As soon as you said Doctor Strange and everything that followed that, my dog just started growling really loud. And he just kept
He knew.
going.
He fucking knew.
He knows.
He knew I was bullshitting.
The torture we were going to be going through.
Yeah.
I do have a question though for you guys before we jump into the episodes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that like you can watch every fucking movie and TV show known to mankind, but you can always kind of tell. I can tell at this point which is a Marvel production, even if it's like this is different, the storyline's different. You know it's Marvel, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think it would benefit? Do you think it's more beneficial for them to have that like stamp of knowing it's Marvel, or to be indistinguishable from like? Because I think this is like this concept of this show really lends itself to like going completely fucking wild psychologically with things. And if you stepped away from the like Marvel, like honestly, it's like fucking white bread and butter. If you stepped away from that, I think you might be able to like breach into making an actual really good movie or show.
That was a horrible transition. I'll let Heather go first.
Honestly, I don't know, considering there's so many other brands out there that have their own stamp for their kind of series. You look at the
Usually
world of
it's
Harry
like-
Potter and the magical beasts and all that. They have.
But Harry Potter, not so much, because Harry Potter gave a lot of like leeway to its directors. You can watch like Harry Potter 1 and Harry Potter 3 and be like, the characters are the same, but everything else is different.
Because they had to follow the book.
No, but like what I'm saying is you don't feel the Marvel in the production value.
Well, it was also Warner Brothers, so
No,
not Disney just mass producing shit.
Real quick on just a side note, before I'll let Heather continue. It is torrentially downpouring here right now, and I see lightning. So if the stream goes black,
Yeah.
you know what happened, folks. Continue.
But you also have Disney with the Star Wars stuff. You know it's Star Wars. And it's not just because of the cast of characters or its location.
Do you think that's like a detriment to Marvel at this point after having 25 movies or shit?
So
We're almost at 30 at this point.
So, I think it's different for Marvel versus versus Star Wars. Star Wars has your core movies, right? The Skywalker saga, and if they continue on after that, you have the main movies that you can reference to, and so you have more wiggle room in terms of like you can sneak into the crevices in between the stories and tell things that do and don't impact the main continuity of the movies, and still get away with, like, you know, if you want to do things darker or edgy or more adult or whatever the fuck you want to call it. You have a little bit more freedom in the Star Wars universe, in my opinion. Marvel is sort of pigeonholed because, especially the audience, in my opinion, is conditioned to understand that this is all going in one direction, that it's all going over here, and it's all going to lead to Secret Wars or the next big thing. Could they?
It follows Stephen King's idea of everything follows the beam.
But then you get like a thing like Moon Knight, which is in no way attached to Marvel except for the fucking label of Marvel.
Yeah.
But that still hits those like production beats that Marvel does. I can tell it's a Marvel production. And the reason I said this is because like you look at the DC universe and you've got things like Joker that come out that have no relation.
Right.
And is completely removed and did very well.
Yep.
And I think there is some benefit after 30 fucking things to kind of like step outside of that safety field.
Don't disagree. It's the blessing and the curse, you know. And plus, you do have to acknowledge that, you know, Disney being the parent company, Disney is going to push more safer.
Well, Disney did it forever, right? Like you knew Lion King and everything else that was in that area of Disney productions
right.
were all the fucking same. But yeah, I think I'm with you. It's a blessing and a curse.
But
it's a blessing for money making, a curse for long-term storytelling.
I'm sorry, Heather. I don't know if you wanted to say something else as well.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry. I was going to say and this is a longer conversation we can have way down the line, but I would, if it was me, build everything to Secret Wars. The next phase is going to be the X-Men, and that's where you start getting into the more edgier stuff or like the outside the box, because you can then split off certain stories to be just Disney Plus versus the big screen movie. And the X-Men universe is so fucking vast with so many goddamn characters that you could you could do like almost like what they did with the Netflix series. You can do the Defenders over here, still keep them separate, yet still tied, but you can always pull them over to bigger properties if need be. But I mean,
I worry about where they're going to start the X-Men series with like certain things that happen at the beginning. No, the certain things that happen in a couple episodes I watched of She-Hulk. It kind of like we aren't going to start X-Men in an era it needs to start in. X-Men are just going to be like, we're going to join the X-Men mid fucking everything.
I don't think that's going to be the case.
Really?
A
lot of the stuff doesn't work. Like translate.
There's a lot. I mean, okay. There's a lot of hype and expectation on that, right? And rightfully so. I don't think I would like to think that for all the mistakes that Marvel does, and for the love of Christ, they do a lot of them, that introducing the X-Men the proper way into the MCU, you have to think is going to be handled with like, because it has to be handled with pins and needles, because they're going to get shit no matter what they do regardless, but especially that's something that a lot, like that's a lot of hype even before they do anything.
They're going to have to deviate from source material, which is going to hurt them no matter what.
Well, there's a shit ton.
Timeline wise, they're gonna have to.
Oh yeah, well. I think we talked about this.
Well, now that they've introduced the multiverse, there's shit tons of timelines that they could have.
Yeah, fucking loophole, baby.
I remember what I was gonna say. It also comes down to the fact that no matter what, there are gonna be fans out there that are fucking diehard to the comics that are gonna bitch about the movies and the shows that nobody's going to be happy about it, and there's going to be things that the studio has to do to try and lure them in so that they can keep getting their money, and it's just going to make it worse for those of us who want them to do the change and make it not so Marvel-y.
I mean, I personally feel like they can use the comics as point of reference, but following them to a T is like suicide a lot of the times, because the comics there's so many fucking comics at this point in time that you can follow the dumbest fucking storyline and be like, well, it's comic accurate. Doesn't mean it's a good fucking movie.
No, of course not. And I agree with you, but there's still going to be those fans out there that didn't want their money.
Yeah,
so.
It's gonna be interesting to see. I think it's pretty clear that the next saga after Multiverse is gonna be the X-Men or mutants. Like they've already been planting the seeds for it. In more than
they already had the New Mutants on Disney Plus.
Yep. On top of that, which we'll get to, and there's already been hints of mutants and mutations in Phase 4, which we'll get to when we get to them. But I think that listen, for all the shit that Marvel's gotten wrong, they've gotten a good shit amount right. So I'm willing to trust them. I think that we'll see how we'll see how it plays out. Timestamp and quote me on this, so that way everyone can burn me and fucking block me as soon as it all shit hits the fan. That being said, how dare you? I'm no longer Mr. Marvel. I am Mr. Marvel. That being said, let's kick off episode 1, which is the goldfish problem. Fucking love the name of that episode. British Museum worker Stephen Grant occasionally suffers from blackouts, just like I do. After going to sleep one night, he finds himself waking up in the Austrian Alps, witnessing a cult meeting led by religious zealot Arthur Harrow, who demands a scarab Grant unknowingly had in his possession. He escapes from Harrow and is nearly killed, but is saved by a mysterious voice in his head. After waking up in his home, noticing several oddities, and returning from his misscheduled date, Grant realizes that 2 days have passed since he went to sleep. He later finds a hidden phone and a key card in his apartment flat, and while searching through the missed calls from a woman named Layla, she calls, Grant is confused upon her calling him Mark. The next day, Grant is confronted by Harrow at work, who reveals that he is the servant of the Egyptian goddess Ammit. Later that night, Harrow summons a jackal-like monster and attacks Grant at the museum. Just as Grant is cornered by the monster, his reflection in the mirror tells Grant to let him take control. Grant agrees, transforming him into a cloaked warrior who kills the monster. Holy fuck, what a pilot. That's a lot to take in one fucking episode.
I do want to say, how you doing, Tex? I do want to say when we first started watching this, the first words out of Basement's mouth when they opened up on the bedroom scene with him chained to the bed was he fucking kidnapped?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. This is fucking I mean, this was how do I say this? We've said this before. I think we've all said this before on one show or the other, where it's like, God damn, they fucking hit the ground running.
Then run right into a brick wall.
They do and they don't in this episode. It's fucking weird, but I appreciate that they try to like. They're trying to like set up a normal situation, but it's almost abnormal, like almost fucking instantaneously. And so, and this is kind of what I was going back to, the idea of like they're trying to string you along until they reveal everything in episode 5. I kind of appreciate them trying to keep it as like, what the fuck is going on? So parts of this work, but parts of it are just like, what, like it's the first episode should be conditioning us to the norm, then breaking that norm afterwards, not doing it in the exact same fucking episode. So it's a little, it's a little off for me.
I don't mind the way that they handle this. If anything, my biggest complaint about this show, and I don't really want to wait until episode 5 to talk about it, is the fact that there is something that gets revealed later on that I would absolutely love if they dropped more before it happens, because like you kind of want to get drip fed that type of shit instead of just being lambasted with it later, and like they don't give you enough. Right now they say, yeah, he loses consciousness and does some weird shit, he's not like one person or whatever, but they want to hit an emotional beat later that would have worked much better if it wasn't just like, I mean, the first episode, I guess they could go without it, but like it would be nice to see a little bit of it moving forward. Yes. The like, I guess it feels weird getting like not walked into this show where it's more like, here's the show, and then all of a sudden fucking nothing makes sense.
Right.
I'm gonna throw this out there just. And you guys tell me part of me feels like I would have been able to swallow this episode a little bit more if, and this might sound really stupid, but if we had like a 5-minute beginning of, hey, that's me, I'm Stephen Grant, and this is da-da-da, and like him, like just a brief narration summing up who he is, what he is, and setting it, and like just a quick little like, this is me job, da da da. My boss is not bitch, but like my boss is a little bit like a quick.
They very easily could have sat there and said, my boss is a bit of a bitch, but you know what? It's a job.
But, yeah, it should have been, the entire first episode should have been him, Stephen Grant, working and establishing the lore that they rely on later, that they don't ever really fucking bring. Like, there's a lot to do with like Egyptian gods and stuff that they don't explore. They just have it there.
Yep.
So like doing that for the majority of this episode and having the end be like waking up somewhere he didn't expect to be,
wake me
I think would have worked better. This is the episode with the logs too, right?
The logs.
You know, the PlayStation 2 logs from the truck.
Log. God, yes. Yes.
This is the chase scene where he's blacking in and out, and we get the dead guy in the back.
I actually, for as much shit as you give this, as much, okay, all right, hold on. For as much as I give shit on the CGI, and I do agree with you guys that it was shit, the concept of him like phasing in and out and not knowing what happens in between, that was fucking cool. I like that part where it's like, oh, like again, it's part of like the putting the piece the mystery together.
That was fine. The CGI though, where you can clearly see it's a guy literally sitting on a floor leaning against a green screen.
If you look closer, you can
see a wide open door, back door to a bakery truck, which is a step fan.
If you look closer, you can see the milk crate he's sitting on. But okay, keep going.
It's pretty bad. The CGI is bad. The one thing I'll say, Connor, that like phasing in and out of like consciousness while fighting and stuff is a great like breadcrumb for when we finally get to see, but we don't hardly ever finally get to see. They do the same fucking thing in the last episode.
Well, Well,
and it's infuriating because it's like I'm gonna tease it until I tease it until I tease it.
but the idea.
Guess what? I'm teasing it still.
Right, but the idea is that he doesn't know what's happening in between, even though like we, the audience, can very easily put together what's going on. So it's more of a device. The reason I like it is because it's not overly complicated. It's just he blacks out, he wakes up, and I I love how that became a TikTok trend, by the way, of the whole like they do the eye roll and then they change something, it's more just to put pieces together for us. It's like, well, okay, he blacked out and he can't remember, so we're assuming he did this. I know we know where everything goes, obviously, because we watched everything, but the reason I like it is because it's a unique, different narration tool to help the audience kind of, like you said, breadcrumbs. But right now, we don't really need a whole lot of breadcrumbs. We just know that, like, Stephen Grant's fucked. We don't know what's wrong with him, but we know that, like, he clearly can do some shit with a bakery truck. Bakery truck.
It's the problem is not with its introduction or use throughout most of the show. It's the tease of something that never delivers.
Yeah.
For a lot of people that watch these Marvel shows, many people want to complain about, big fight scene, whatever. You still need that because it's a fucking comic book story. At some point in time, you need to get that. This show does a couple fight scenes, but they all look shitty, and I don't care about any of them. How about, it never really delivers on what it's teasing. In that respect, I like the idea of it kind of being used to like show what is possible.
Well, there's one big gripe I have about the show overall, which we'll get to at the end. But the two things I just wanted to kind of touch base on with this episode before we move on is, number one, Arthur Harrow, played by Ethan Hawke. I love him and I don't. It's a weird fucking feeling. Like, I feel like he is a extremely boring antagonist, but for some reason, I don't know if it's because it's Ethan Hawke or if it's the way he talks or the fact that I don't think we've gotten a villain like him in the sense of like really like almost checked out. But I feel like I don't think we've gotten an antagonist like him at all. And I mean that in a very good way. Like it's weird. Like normally I would bitch, moan, and complain about a performance like this, but for some reason it fits here. I don't. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm fucking nuts and I'm overtired.
Works better at the beginning of the show, and as the show progresses, it gets worse and worse.
Oh yeah.
And like I said before we were on air, it's not. I don't think it's Ethan Hawke's fault. It's just like he probably got 3 words, and they're like, "This is your character. Play it."
It would not surprise me.
There's another part, too, that he does later on, which I also appreciate. And what's up, Arush and Chu also joining us in the chat. What's up, and Trek also in there as well. You guys are crushing it in the chat. Thank you so much. I just need the scarab. Just give me the scarab. Give me the scarab. Come on. He almost sounds like Beetlejuice.
I'd like that back and forth with the scarab, though. The fight where he's like trying to give it to him, but he can't. It reminded me of Evil Dead 2.
Oh my god!
And doing shit.
Yes, I was about to say, did you guys genuinely laugh at anything from the first episode? I mean, I fucking enjoyed it.
I laughed at about half of the episode.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was the bad CGI.
Damn it! I was trying to get there.
Most of the time, it's bad CGI.
Too close.
But how about Oscar Isaac was fucking incredible.
How about how about the very end scene with the idea of them doing the quick reveal of the suit at the very, very end?
I absolutely hated the way all the visuals in this show look. I just don't understand. He's wrapped in mummy wraps.
Toilet paper.
Why does it have to be CGI?
It's toilet paper.
Why does everything have to be CGI?
Do you really you want him to be walking around in fucking mummy attire the entire time?
No, not the entire time.
Right.
But my God, does this show rely so heavily on CGI? Sometimes, a lot of the times, when it's not needed.
It's a supernatural show.
But certain things, yes, I get. But certain things, I mean, what the fuck? There's a point in episode 3 that I was like, I fucking hate the heavy reliance for no reason at all. It makes it. The problem is, like, Marvel, this show is going to be so it's going to age like milk. Because of the way that it looks. It already looks bad.
Yeah, okay.
It already looks bad. In 10 years, it's going to look like fucking shit.
Well, I have a bigger gripe with the series, which I'll get to in a second, but it's a narration thing, which Take your pick. I don't know. I actually like okay. I like the way they introduced the suit, where it's the quick little tease at the end. Because here's
I get that. Yeah, I'll agree with you there.
Because here's the thing, right? First episode, you're hitting the ground running because presumably you don't know what the fuck is going on at all, right? Like, let's say you never saw any of the teasers or any of the trailers or any of that bullshit, right? Which, but the audience, you do not know what's going on, and you are fed a ton of shit at the beginning, and I when I say shit, I mean like information. So you kind of need like that, like final, like, oh, what the fuck is going, and then like the final, like, oh, he's a superhero, but it just fucking raises more questions. So, part of me felt like that was a bit of a reward for putting up with the episode.
Well, I like the way that they use mirrors in this show.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's not new by any means. I mean, it's been used before to show split personalities and a million other things.
Yeah.
But the show does it very well, and it's also lent a lot of it's lended to fucking Oscar Isaac being able to do it.
The directors actually said, they were asked, like, what was some of the challenges that you had for the show, and they said the mirror shot in episode 1 was the fucking hardest thing that we have ever done in a production set in the history of fucking like no, they we cannot stress how fucking difficult this thing was, because if you think about it, right, you're doing mirrors, then you're doing green screen mirrors, so you have to film everything at least twice, and then you have to position the camera in a way where you have to like hit all your cues and hit the right spots at the right time. And it's like, I didn't even like go into it, but like if you look up, there's a YouTube video on how they did it, and it hurts my brain trying to wrap my head around how they fucking pulled it off. But I don't care. I still thought that the way they gave the quick little tease of it at the end was of showing the suit was still good.
I liked it. I liked the tease. I didn't like I said, and this is just gonna be a through line. I don't like the way the show looks, but like the tease was great. The timing was great. The use of mirrors was great. I at this point, I'm enjoying the show. The first episode I enjoyed.
At this point,
yeah. Looking back at it in the past, I would recommend dropping a bit more lore and being more about Steven and not really going so balls to the walls right away. But
bloody hell.
Not a bad first episode for me.
All right. That being said, we move on to episode 2, Summon the Suit. Great. I love Khonshu. So after being fired for damaging the bathroom of the National Gallery, Stephen Grant uses the key card he found in his apartment to access his storage locker containing the scarab. Grant's reflection reveals that he is Marc Spector, or at least the reflection is at this time. Another identity living inside of Grant's body, an American mercenary, and the current avatar to the Egyptian moon god, Khonshu. Spector tries to convince Grant to let him resume control of their body, but Grant refuses and flees. He is confronted by Layla, Spector's wife, who was unaware of Grant's existence, before being arrested by police officers working for Arthur Harrow. Harrow reveals that he was Khonshu's previous avatar until he chose to follow Amit instead, and that he seeks the scarab to find her tomb and resurrect her so that he can purge humanity of evil. I'm going to get there. Layla rescues Grant, but Harrow summons an invisible jackal-like monster to pursue them. Jackal? Jackal. It's a jackal. Grant summons a suit similar to Spector's and fights the jackal, but is overpowered and allows Spector to take control. Spector kills the jackal but loses the scarab to Harrow. Khonshu angrily confronts Spector, who promises to find Amit's tomb before Harrow does. Khonshu threatens to claim Layla as his next avatar should Spector fail before sending him to Egypt. So holy fucking context, Batman. So this is where everything is set up as far as like, here's what we gotta do. Like this is where everything is established for the entire show as far as the arc, for better or for worse. Okay, so first things first. Grant finds the like the secret bear area where like there's a gun and all this money and everything, and he finally talks to Marc Spector. He then sees Khonshu for the first time. I don't know if you guys remember that, where he sees him in like the locker or the storage area. Runs, and then Layla's like, "Oh, I'm your wife." As soon as I heard Layla's like, "I'm your wife," and Stephen Grant didn't know who she was, I'm like, Marc Spector's the dominant person. As soon as I heard that line, that there's no, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of a little bit of an obvious like. I don't know. Maybe that was just me. So
Most of that body's existence has been Marc Spector.
yeah. As soon as I heard that line, I'm like, okay, well, that because
you kind of get that, like the show like is really heavy-handed with that aspect of it, and I think it's because anybody that read the comics would know immediately that that's the case. But I have to get this out of there, get it out of me before I fucking explode. Harrow, is it me you're looking for? And can't you suck my balls? Right, I'm done.
I like the fact that Harrow. I mean, Harrow's. I remember Basement when we were watching this episode because we watched these 2 episodes. I remember. Do you remember this Basement? You're like, it's fucking. What was it? It's fucking Winter Soldier all over again. It's the fucking the carriers, the aircraft carriers, where we're gonna kill people before they commit evil.
Yes.
Having a good discussion about that. Like, you're obviously evil and terrible if you're killing people before they do anything. I remember talking about what's the fucking Tom Cruise movie?
The what?
Where he... No, the one where they like predict future crimes.
Wait, are you talking Marvel or something else?
No, not Marvel.
No, Tom Cruise.
Oh God, hold on.
You know what I'm talking about? When the little red balls come out and there's a bunch of bald people in the water. You know what I'm talking about.
I do. I'm trying to remember.
I never watched it, so no.
That was a pretty good movie, actually.
It was a Minority Report, was it?
Yeah, it was.
Yep. Fucking Tom
Yeah,
Cruise.
Might be my favorite Tom Cruise.
I just love how like I don't mind the setup. It's actually pretty, okay. It's a little bit paint by numbers. I don't give a shit. It's fine. I think it suits what we're looking for here as far as like a story. But I love how Basement's like, it's fucking Winter Soldier all over again with fucking shield and the goddamn. I'm like, because you're right. We were talking about this before, how I love Khonshu. Khonshu's a dick. He's a fucking asshole, and I just love him. Especially the scene where he's like, kill him. He's like, is he telling you to kill me? Break his windpipe. Like, it just, he's a fucking
so
ass,
venom.
and I love him.
That's so Raven.
I mean, it explains why Khonshu and fucking Marc Spector got along so well, because they're pretty much the same person.
Yep. Yeah, basically. Well, sort of. We'll find out more about that a little bit later on.
Mm-hmm.
But so I mean, not much else other than like this is the establishing like the stakes that are up there and like who's good, who's bad, why we have to stop them, and blah 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 blah. I did like. I also did like Stephen Grant's falling to his presumably death, and Khonshu yells "Summon the suit," and he comes out with as now known as Mr. Knight, which is Moon Knight dressed up in a full white suit. Yep.
A much preferred suit to the fucking CGI mess they have him wearing half the time.
Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. My name's Steven with the V.
I mean, come on, it looks so bad. The CGI in this is absolutely terrible. The suit looks terrible.
Up close, yes. From a distance, no. But then again, we don't get much.
With my eyes closed, pretty good.
With my eyes closed, it's fantastic.
What did you guys think of?
Everything is so beautiful.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of Layla as a character?
She was a little overboard with her acting, I think.
Did she get you on your knees, Layla?
She's not she's better than middle of the road, but she's not the best female actor or actress or character we have in the MCU so far. But she is handled better than a lot of ones that we've seen in the past.
She's definitely given a better starting board than others.
I think her character, I don't know if the actress is not terrible.
It's hard to tell with her.
They ask a lot of her at a certain point in time in the show,
yes,
and it does not.
She's also a major crutch in term. And what I mean by that is like she's a supporting, piece for a really good chunk of this show. So it's kind of.
I like her character. It's just like I said, I'm not a huge the actress isn't terrible, but she's not. When she's featured and 90% of her fucking time on screen is with fucking Oscar Isaac, it just doesn't look well for her.
Yeah. So Steven uses the regular the Mr. Knight suit. Marc Spector takes control again, and then we get the setup there. He kills the jackal, and then Khonshu's like, "You fucking idiot," and then he just instantly transports him to fucking Egypt. So that's a thing that Khonshu can just do because he's a god. By the way, just kind of throwing this out there too. The idea that and we'll get more into this, I'm sure, when we get to the next 2 episodes or so. But obviously the MCU is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
This is a new realm of gods that are being introduced.
Yeah.
It's not just Khonshu, because
it's all the Egyptian gods.
Yeah.
But it's akin to like introducing like Thor and them in my mind, because it's the same kind of like gods that exist in, well, at least exist in lore in real life.
Yeah, but even with Thor, we didn't get the introduction of other gods other than Thor, Odin, and Loki. Really.
True.
Well, you got the like frost giants and like their whole world.
Right, we got mystical creatures, but not necessarily gods. But the idea, the reason I'm just pitching this out there is because it's not just that we're getting gods, but we're getting a new relationship with gods and presumably humans, where the Egyptian gods anyway have avatars, people who represent them and can do things on their behalf. And Khonshu goes into more detail about this.
They're all like middle managers.
Yes, basically. Yeah. It's like, corporate says we can't let you do this.
I couldn't handle the fucking way they all looked eventually.
Oh my god, yeah,
like
we get to the tomb. Well,
yeah.
Oh my god, fucking it's fucking it's the regional meeting.
No.
But
Dunder Mifflin.
I kind of like this because when I like this, I like the idea of you have a superpowered being who's representing, or a superhero or a heroine, whatever you want to, representing a god or goddess, and so they're endowed with powers to, not maybe like the full powers of the deity they're representing. The whole dynamic of that is very interesting to me as far as storytelling goes, because there's so much you can do with it. Where, like, Khonshu can be a dick.
It's heavily inconsistent as the show goes on,
I
do like the idea of it, because they can't really do anything. They have to influence in order to get things done.
Yep.
Like the first 2 episodes, the first 2 episodes of this show I like, and the 5th. Everything else in between and after the 5th,
no good.
Kind of eat my asshole out. But we'll get there.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. We're gonna get there quick.
Let's do that with episode 3.
We watched the first 2 episodes. Oh, at least I did. And Heather, I think we watched the first 2 episodes and then spent months without watching the rest of it. So
yeah,
it's kind of a
except
weird
for me.
jump
I was
back
on
into
that.
the
I was
third
on that
episode.
fucking Kevin
Crack.
Feige dick riding train. Still am. Choo choo. Anyway, episode 3, the friendly type. Arthur Harrow and his followers discover the location of Amit's tomb. No shit. In Cairo, Marc Spector and Stephen Graham both experience several unusual blackouts while tracking down a lead to Harrow's location. After they fail to obtain information from Harrow's followers, Khonshu causes a solar eclipse to call for a council of the Ennead, or I'm trying to remember how they pronounce it. Ennead. And their avatars, who summon Spector to a chamber inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. Khonshu and Spector attempt to inform the gods of Harrow's plan to free Amit, but the latter successfully denies the accusation when summoned. Oh, I'm going to get a rant on that in a minute. The avatar of Hathor, Yatzil, tells Spector to find the sarcophagus of the Magi, who knew of the location of Amit's tomb. He later encounters Layla, who takes him to meet with Anton Mogart, an acquaintance of Layla who owns the Magi's sarcophagus. However, the meeting goes awry when Harrow arrives and destroys the sarcophagus, forcing Spector, Grant, and Layla to fight off Morgart's men and escape into the desert. Grant is able to assemble a set of fragments from the sarcophagus into an ancient star map, but the map is 2,000 years out of date. Khonshu uses his powers to briefly turn
this
back.
Is so ridiculous.
We're gonna let me finish the fucking synopsis. Turn back the night sky to reassemble the map, allowing Grant and Layla to find the location of Amit's tomb. However, Khonshu is then imprisoned by the other gods, leaving Grant and Spector's body unconscious and powerless. Oh, fucking K. There is so much to go over in this. All right. So they find the tomb. No shit. the idea with Mark and Steven, while they're still trying to get a lead down and they're still doing they're like the blackouts are still happening. I love that little tease. I love that little tease in just that episode at the right time where like, is that you? No, I thought it was you. Anyway, and then moving right on. And I kind of wish that we saw, I mean, I know we will see more of it a little bit more on the, a couple episodes down, but I kind of wish I saw more of that Indiana Jones, like Steven versus Mark in control, trying to, I wish I saw a little bit more of that in this series, personally speaking.
I agree. I mean, with that now suspected third conscience, we only get 3 little teases of him.
Yeah. It was a nice tease, but I wish that was like one of those things where, I'll be honest, I would have preferred like an entire episode with just the two of them doing like the hunting down and whatnot. Maybe Layla obviously in between, but Stephen Grant's putting things together. Marc Spector still in the control, but we're getting the battle between Mark and Steven a lot more as they're trying to figure this all out. So it's like Steven's trying to figure things out. Mark's trying to figure things out. They're both trying to figure things out. And they're trying to like almost be like Batman in the crime solving department. I just wish I saw a little bit more of that than like the fucking like 10 minutes that we saw from here.
So I can't differentiate the third and fourth episode in my mind. They kind of like meld together.
So the third episode ends with Khonshu being imprisoned.
Okay. But okay, this is the. I know for a fact this episode starts with him fighting like these super gay-looking thugs on a rooftop.
Arabian Nights.
I'm like first of all, it looks the fight is terrible. The casting is terrible, and then there's like this random point where they stop and he throws a knife up in the air, CGI fucking bullshit for no reason at all. It was just absolutely terrible to me. And then he like teleports and he ends up in a fucking taxi or some shit. But like that whole part, I was like, what is this? My God.
It did. I'll be honest.
It looked so bad.
I'm gonna be honest with you. One of those thugs I thought was a girl until he spoke.
But they all had like eyeliner on, and they all looked like they were straight out of GQ magazine. They're all fighting each other, and he throws this knife up, and it's so blatantly CGI. It's so, like,
I don't know if you remember me telling you this, guys.
That should have never made the cutting room floor.
We no pun intended. We watched the first 2 episodes together. We didn't watch any of Moon Knight, the 3 of us together afterwards. But I remember saying to you guys after I watched the 3rd episode, I said, remember how you guys gave shit to the CGI in the first episode? Wait till Moon Knight's done. So that was all over the place. And then I do like the idea of Khonshu being like, fuck, all right, well, let's go snitch. It's pretty much what they do. But like, I like that idea because it world builds. It shows that there's more than just Amit and Khonshu out there. There are other Egyptian gods. I like that. It tells the backstory. There's more. That's why I said, like, I love the idea of the Avatar and the gods' relationship. But what the fuck of just, he's like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
This is the episode with that fucking naked guy playing sticks on horseback, right?
Yes.
I'm like, what is he doing, first of all? Like, what was that? He's riding around just literally touching sticks with other people. I'm like, it's like, well, he's not just he's practicing. I don't know what the fuck she said, but it was stupid as shit.
He's practicing an ancient form of horseback riding and fighting.
And okay, rewatch that and tell me which part.
I know. I watched it and rolled my eyes just as heavily as you did.
But there's this moment after that follows where it's like, and this is to Connor's point, where he's like, I will not give up control to Steven, no matter what, whatever. Yet he does in the middle of a fight for some reason that makes no absolute sense. And then I'm like, oh, I know why they did it. For a gag.
Yeah.
Or a laugh. That's exactly what you just.
Oh, I don't know why she would say like why her what mouth, and like, oh, I'll be setting up something. I see how it goes. Very clever.
Spent 10 fucking minutes being like, I'm not doing it. I'm not giving him choice in a scenario where he would actually help.
But it's not
to then get into a fight scene and turn back into him, only to get stabbed and turn back.
It's not even that. Even before going to like the guy to see the sarcophagus, right? They all approach the avatars and the gods that they represent, right? And the part that infuriates me is that you have, I think it was like close to 8. It was either like 6 to 8 of them between Harrow, Spector, and then the other council members, right? You fuckers are all gods, and you mean to tell me that you are just gonna believe the fact that Harrow's like, I wouldn't do that? Like, you guys are fucking.
He actually comes in with the same energy the entire show and no backing. He's like,
but
no.
He
doesn't even know his own name.
If he didn't show
up, I
have
glass in my shoes.
I would have preferred if he never fucking showed up.
Yeah,
at least, or like give us a flashback to him being the Avatar prior, because that's what he was, right? I'm like, he's gone to his Avatar before, so like do that and give us a reason for like him being more believable than Khonshu, but they don't, and these fucking middle managers are like, you're wrong.
Johnny Cochran, give me fucking Arthur Harrow on the stand. Fucking Christ. But you know what I mean? Like, it's
glass crunching under his feet.
It's not even. It's not his performance. It's not like it's the writing of this.
They didn't even try.
Well,
they didn't even try to write it to a point where it makes any sense. They're just like, he's gonna win. We know where this goes.
He didn't
so
even
let's just
do
get there.
anything like notorious or deceivious, like sneaky or like underhanded to like fake trick them to think that that was legit. He just like no.
Yeah.
No, mommy, that wasn't me.
This is like the downfall of this show, though. Like the terrible writing. They know where they want to get, and they don't contemplate how they get there.
Wait till we break the earth in a few minutes. All right, so that all happens. I like the fact that they had like somebody on the inside, like, no, do this, like sneaky around the way to get to the sarcophagus. We do a little bit of exploration with like Mark and Layla's, like the conversation they had on the boat getting there. Cool. So Anton Mogart, who unfortunately the actor passed away not too long after the production of Moon Knight, he's a little bit of an Easter egg because in the comics he's known as Midnight.
What happened to him?
I think it was COVID or COVID related, unfortunately. I could be mistaken. I don't want to misspeak on that. That I liked because it was almost like Indiana Jones-esque in the sense of like, oh, they have to do this to sneak around and blah blah blah. But I do agree with Basement of the idea of like, Mark, take over. Mark takes over. Steven takes over. 2 hits. All right, back to you. Gets stabbed.
It's just the fact that it followed like
3 times.
It followed like a story beat where he's like, I am not giving up control. To give up control in a situation that makes no fucking sense for him to do so.
Well,
it's like, who is writing this fucking thing?
Well, here's the weird thing about that, right? In the scene where they're all fighting and they're attacking horses, which I can appreciate, they do try to correct that at the very, very, very end, where the idea of Mark has an advantage and Steven has an advantage. So I get where I agree with Basement's frustration about like,
I would say we have an advantage fighting.
None.
No, right, and I'm agreeing with you. But Steven's knowledge of Egyptian mythology and mythos and all that stuff with other aspects of the adventure makes sense. So I do, which they try to correct at the end of the episode, but I'm like, could you just have like
flipped it?
Better.
Or just like not have done it at all. If he's not like, it was so frustrating because you have to be like,
bleeding.
Oh my god, you'd have to be like brain dead to be like, okay, this makes sense. No, I wish one of those horses ran me over. That was so infuriating.
I mean, what about you, Heather? Did you feel the same, or were you just like, I'm out, shut off, brain?
I think at this point, I'm just sitting there like, can this be over now?
I'm gonna kill Conor. This counts as Conor's Christmas present.
Yeah, I mean, it's so bad at this point. It's just like, dude, you know this guy that's inside your own fucking head has all this fucking knowledge about Egyptians and their lore and their religion. Let him take over for that, and you take over for the fighting, because you are the brute force behind everything.
I mean, they're still trying to establish that they're not on the same page, which Cool.
Well, that was very clear from episode 1.
Yeah, but like
Yeah,
we're halfway through now.
It was no. There's got to be like this is what I'm saying. They can't fill the void of 4 hours with an hour of content. And also, like, Ethan Hawke, how crippled is this man? Because sometimes he shows up and he's like fucking needs a wheelchair, and sometimes he's like perfectly fine.
Glass in his shoe doesn't help. What happened to you? No, it's nothing about it.
Like, I already got a fucking bad leg. No, I need glass.
The final part of this episode, I actually enjoy a good chunk of it, except for one really key pivotal part. I like the fact that Khonshu's like, listen, we need to. You and I are both on the same page. Like, we need to stop this. We need to figure out like this is going on. You'll be banished in prison. He goes, I don't give a shit. Just fucking stop him. And he kind of puts his morals or his like frustrations aside to help him to find where the sarcophagus is. Like, I actually like that part. I like that Steven steps up to the plate and shows off his Egyptian knowledge and know-how. All that's good and well. I love that part. I all really, really enjoyed. And I even like the idea of, now Khonshu's gone. That means no Moon Knight powers. Okay, great. I stakes are high. Cool. This
is the part that makes no sense.
He turns back the Earth's sky 2,000 years.
Imagine what that would actually do.
Light show that is imaginable.
And how strong is he then, for fuck's sakes? Why is he not like master of the universe?
Himself. If he's that fucking powerful that he can do that, why is he not doing this himself?
I really want to know what every other fucking Avenger was
honestly,
like. What the fuck?
Yeah. It's something that works in I bet you any money this was a comic book scene. And it's something that works in the comic book, but makes no sense when you try to apply it to like real life or any version of that. Because like, like the planets have shifted, so we're just gonna unshift them for 2 seconds. What? The fuck? What kind of power do you have?
Okay.
Like, I would have been like, I've been much more willing, like, if he just fucking drew it.
Yes.
It was like, here's what it looked like.
He says, I remember that night. I remember all nights.
This is the
ridiculous.
This is the kind of shit
that, like a simulation or something, not in the real fucking world.
When Marvel's good and when it's great, oh man, it is chef's kiss. And then something like this happens where it's really a small peanut in the grand scheme of things, and I will admit I am really fucking overthinking this, but not only in the context of the story, but also just like, again, this is still part of the MCU, which means it's gonna have fucking bigger ramifications, and like I just, you turned back the Earth's night sky 2,000 years. Did no one, and didn't they fucking show humans actually like looking at this and be like, oh wow, that's fucking crazy.
Everybody started what they were doing to watch what was fucking happening.
What he essentially does makes no actual fucking sense. He turned back time 2,000 years, like which makes no sense. Like the fact that it wouldn't be a nitpick if it wasn't universe breaking.
Yes,
it's universe breaking. A nitpick is what I'm gonna say earlier. They have all these fucking pieces of like the stars and shit like that on the top of the car,
and
right?
And they're working over in the sand instead of staying in the truck.
I'm gonna take this and go into the darkness and tape it together. I was like, I can't be the only person that realized he went off into the darkness to put this together for no reason.
But the thing that's infuriating, the thing that's infuriating too is that like, every other part of it, except for that part, I really liked. Steven steps up to the plate. Khonshu sacrifices himself, understanding like you've got to stop him, and then Grant and Mark lose their powers as a result of it. Like everything else about it makes sense. Oh, what they do to what they were doing like a bold service. Oh, they were just fucking turning the Earth back 2,000 years in time.
And they do it. Even worse is the fact that they show people all over the fucking planet being like, looking up at the sky. Like, okay, so
in the sky.
Like the night sky isn't a fucking painting, you dumb cunts. Like it's so infuriating because it makes no fucking sense.
I don't even
And this comes on the heels of him going to the sand to fucking make a star out of stars.
I am not shitting you. If you go on YouTube and look, I think it's about 2.5 hours where a fan of this of Marvel sits down with an astrophysicist, show him this scene, and just let them go. And it's a 2.5 hour stream about like how like what the actual ramifications would be if this were to happen in real life. And it's I can't spend more time on it. It doesn't make any sense. It's so ridiculous. Like
if you're returning the night sky to where it was, you are obliterated. What's her fucking name? Captain Marvel. She's dead. She's not born anymore. World. Like I don't understand. Like if it was just like how many times have we seen like people do like this is a representation of what it looked like in like a room?
It's a beautiful.
Why can't you do that?
It's a beautiful visual. I will say that from the comic, and it is a beautiful visual to see them like rotate the sky and seeing all the stars change like that. But if you try to think about it for more than fucking 10 minutes, your brain will bleed because I'm pretty sure mine just did.
It's.
Oh God. All right.
It's the thing that Marvel does a lot. It sacrifices any form of sense for like either comic accuracy or something visual or one line of dialogue.
Would have just. It's. I think that's the infuriating part. Is that like, for me anyway, at least half of the issues I have with the creative of Marvel could be simply fixed with 2 lines of dialogue or a paragraph of explanation. That's all you need.
This episode is the worst in my opinion.
Iron Man Kang shit his pants on this one because I mean at that point if you can fucking turn back the night sky, and I can't remember who it was, Heather or Baseman said this as far as like, well, why does he just do anything because he's a god? He does explain. I think it's in this episode. No, it is in this episode.
It's like they're going to put me in jail for this.
Of gods cannot interfere with the lives of immortals.
Well, not only that, they are limited in terms of their roles. So like. I think it's either this episode or the 6th episode. Khonshu explains that there's only so much. There's only so many things he can manipulate. He can manipulate the moon, the sky, and I think one other aspect, and that's about it.
The thing that's so fucking stupid is like, he's like, okay, I'm gonna turn back time so you can see the night sky the way it was on that day. You can go to like an actual fucking astrophysicist, and they can plot that for you.
Yep.
But instead, he's like, they're going to imprison me for this, and I'm going to become more of a problem than a solution.
It's all right.
It's like, okay, cool. Whatever.
Right now, yes, he may not be able to interfere with the lives of mortals. However, he can turn himself into a cloud of dust, go to the tomb where Annette's fucking statue is, and blow it out of the fucking mummy and bring it back to the fucking temple. Where he is later kept?
There's a lot of
consistency.
Because the show needs to happen. Fair enough.
But yeah, like this issue and the issue of them like swapping for no reason in a fight. I'm like, this episode is fucking ass. Like this is, in my opinion, the worst episode.
This episode tops episode 2 with the bad CGI.
So then episode 4, which is known as The Tomb.
All the CGI is bad in this show. There's no good CGI. The only thing that's good is the fucking hippo. And even then,
speaking of which,
it's not that good.
So in episode 4, entitled The Tomb, Stephen Grant and Layla find a deserted campsite at the location of Amit's tomb, which is a maze in the shape of the Eye of Horus. They discover that some of Arthur Harrow's men have been killed by undead Egyptian priests, which then attack them. Layla defeats the priests, but encounters Harrow, who claims that her husband, Marc Spector, was one of the mercenaries who murdered her archaeologist father, Abdallah el-Fawli. Grant and Spector find the tomb and discover that Amit's last avatar was Alexander the Great. I thought that was a kind of cute little nudge there. Grant then retrieves Amit's Ushabti from inside Alexander's body. That's the vessel.
Yeah.
Layla angrily confronts Spector, who reveals that his partner killed Layla's father and shot Spector. Harrow then arrives and shoots Spector, who wakes up in a psychiatric hospital populated by people from his life. After escaping from Harrow, who appears to be a therapist at the hospital, Spector finds Grant trapped in a sarcophagus. They also see a second sarcophagus with someone else trapped inside before they are greeted by a hippopotamus-headed figure. Whoo! Okay, so this is essentially this is the shit hits the fan moment because it does. This really slowed down, which it needed to, for love of God. After
Connor,
turning back.
your mic cuts out every now and then like, and they're in a tomb shaped like a, and it blanks, and then you come right.
So I was pulling a JP, is what you're saying. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of this I actually like. The first is the fact that the episode slowed down immensely, which it really fucking needed to, because this show was just like fucking constant. Yeah. There's parts of this with the Marc reveal, or Marc's associated with Layla's father getting killed. Did anybody else raise their eyebrow when he gave an explanation as to why or what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Basement.
Honestly, there's parts of this episode I just like fucking checked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I like, it was boring, man. Yeah, they got to the tomb and stuff, and I'm like, okay, this is not anything as good as the Mummy or any of the other fucking things that happened in a tomb. And it went on forever. Like the fucking, Layla's tomb adventure honestly annoyed the shit out of me, because I don't care anymore. And like the little, I don't know what it was, the fucking thing with like baby black hands attacking them. What was that?
Oh, like the monkey thing?
Whatever. What was it? Did we ever actually see it? I didn't see it.
It was an undead priest.
Yeah, that was like a mummy.
Why did it have baby hands?
Well, what do you think happens to body parts over thousands of years? They shrink.
Babies?
Yep.
Well, I'll quote you on that when we get to episode 5 or 6. Because that doesn't happen.
Won't be that long. I like the so the idea is that Harrow reveals to Layla that Marc killed Layla's father, but Marc says that no, my partner killed your father and then shot me. And
then we see like the flashback of his partner, and his partner is like an unassuming like young black kid.
I don't even think we saw the partner, did we?
Who was that guy with him?
I thought there was just like a figure.
Oh, no. The unassuming young black kid was Stephen Grant's fucking assistant.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I think that it's the mystery at the end, the reveal at the end.
Yeah.
Which I'm fine with, because set up for a sequel. Alexander the Great being Amit's last avatar, I thought was a nice little like nudge wink for like history buffs and whatever. I thought that was kind of a neat little thing. But then fucking he's shot, and then he ends up in a psychiatric hospital.
How did they get separated? Because it seemed like they were in the same room at one point, and then he was like on rafters above her or some shit.
He climbed up to find the exit after they had found that room, and they'd realized that there was fresh blood on that table.
Yep.
And then as that priest came in, she ducked down to hide, and he ducked down up there.
This is a really okay.
You just finished the episode.
Yes, but the
he goes from being on a rafter
up on the higher rise.
He goes from being on a rafter to being in the fucking tomb room immediately. Right? Because
no, they go separate. They go separate ways.
A little bit through tunnels. They just cut that part out to save time.
Yeah, they go separate ways, because that way Harrow has the confrontation with.
Everybody else that was in that fucking thing couldn't find where the actual main room was. They're all like wandering around in the darkness. This guy goes from the rafters to teleporting there.
Didn't say they were smart.
Oh, and she also gets attacked by like zombies or hands or something, right? Layla, well, she's like walking, a bunch of blue hands come out and touch her, and they aren't baby hands, Connor.
Oh my fucking lord. Anyway, so Spector gets shot, and then he finds up himself in the fucking psychiatric hospital, which
Harrow.
Yeah. So that's what I was gonna say. First off, Harrow as the doctor, I think, was pretty fun. That I enjoyed, from if anything else.
Best part of the show, to be honest.
What's that?
This is the start of the best part of the show.
Yes.
Honestly, I'd prefer the show took place in the fucking psychiatric ward, and everything else was just like
That would have made it so much more fucking mind-boggling if they did it from that perspective through the whole fucking thing.
even if they were gonna hold it off for a little bit as like a surprise, and in the end you kind of don't really know because they never really tell you. But like, I'd rather them just tell us.
Yeah.
Yes, he's fucking crazy and he's in an insane asylum and like all the things that he's thinking of are kind of like him turning people into different, like he's working within the realms of the asylum. So you have the doctor being the bad guy, you have his friend being his wife, and you have the guy that was Shelton Benjamin walking around. Who was like,
What makes it even better is they open this with the mock version of Indiana Jones.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. That's the other part of it too with the hospital is that, good Lord, and this is why we don't cover fucking so many Easter eggs on this show, is because there's 30-minute YouTube videos that just talk about just Easter eggs. But if you look closely enough, you can see so many of them. Especially in the psychiatric hospital, whether it be predicting the future or showing ahead of what's to come, or just references to things that we've already seen / known about Mark and Steven beforehand. I do love the idea of Mark like talking to the doctor, and then it really makes you. It's the whole like what the again another what, because we need it so many times in the show of what the fuck is going on. What the fuck is going on?
It's the usual suspects in an insane asylum,
basically. And then with him freeing, I love that he freed Steven, but they found a third sarcophagus, and they didn't open it. And then they got granted by a hippo bitch. And that was the end of the episode.
I love the aspect of the Mark scream being more manly and Steven's scream being more feminine, just to further separate the personalities.
Yep. I love it.
The ending was great.
Yeah, it was fucking hilarious.
Really beat it. So then, I mean, I guess we might as well roll into this next one. So that rolls us into, and I don't want to speak on Heather or Basement's behalf, but my personal favorite episode of the entire fucking series, episode 5, Asylum. So, Stephen Grant identifies the hippopotamus-headed woman as the Egyptian goddess Tauret, who explains to him and Marc Spector that they are dead and that the psychiatric hospital is actually inside a boat sailing through the Duat. She weighs their hearts on the scale of justice to determine if they would be allowed to enter the field of reeds, and she advises them to help each other uncover hidden memories causing their imbalance. Grant sees a memory of Spector's younger brother Randall drowning and Spector's mother Wendy blaming him for it, while Spector reveals to Grant how he became Khonshu's avatar on a mission with his partner Bushem. Spector and Grant convince Tauret to let them return to the living world to stop Arthur Harrow, who has released Amet, and she steers the boat towards the gates of Osiris. Dr. Harrow, a psychiatric version of Harrow, convinces Spector to fully open up to Grant, and Spector reluctantly explains that he unknowingly created Grant as a result of their mother's abuse. Grant and Spector reconcile with each other, but their scales fail to balance, causing hostile spirits to attack them. While fending them off, Grant falls off the boats and is consumed by the Duat. The scales become balanced, and Spector finds himself in the field of reeds. I have no complaints about this episode. I'm going to be very honest with you. I have
complaints.
I'm sure you do. I don't. I can't really.
Well, first of all, like you can't, just to get it out of the way, you can't have one good episode mean the show's good. The show,
yes, you can.
It's just not deserving. The show, this episode is too good for the show at this point.
Except for one line, but
there's a couple things in this that I don't like. I feel like they are like there's some. They want you to. There's lazy emotion. And when I say that, I mean like they try to get an emotional reaction out of people in this show, but they haven't earned it. And I wish, and this is why I said earlier, like I wish some of this, like an inkling of maybe the psychiatry aspect or the like child trauma aspect was kind of given to us a bit earlier instead of being like, wham, here it is. I know they're not in it very long, but the children actors, terrible. They're really bad.
I
like
think,
they knew they were only going to be in there for 5 minutes.
I think I know what you're referring to, and I can agree with you on that, because I think the big emotional turn is obviously the reveal of how Steven came to be and how we got up to, how do we get into
but then
this
he
mess?
just
And it
fucking
all
disappears after that.
but it all leans on Mark, not Steven. So we've been following Steven more than we've been following Mark. So it's hard for us to get more emotionally connected or have pity for Mark when we've been following Steven more so far.
Yes, Mark is very much the least likable.
Well,
one of the least likable characters for me in the show. But it's also the fact that like he creates Steven as a way to cope with his mother's abuse.
Yep.
For literally a minute. And then we're to believe that Steven disappeared completely until this show starts.
No, it's I think they implied that it was a continuous thing. It was not.
Yes.
It was not.
Well, how?
Later on, when they show, I think it's started like episode 6 where we see him standing in New York.
Actually, might have been the end of this episode.
Like after his mom dies.
There's a dialogue piece. I'm almost certain, but there's a dialogue piece.
That's weird because they showed them as like two completely different.
Well, those are the most pivotal moments. Is that the first they're going to show the first time he does it, right? And they're going to show the most recent time he did it, which presumably the most recent time he did it was when the mother passed and he just snapped and stayed as Steven.
Yeah, it's. I guess the thing. It's very like advantageous for the storyline they're telling. They're
trying to cram a shit ton in one episode. So I mean,
yeah, other than that, like the representation of like how to deal with like loss and abuse and stuff is done very well. I love the fact that when they're going through, like he's like, "Don't go in there, don't go in there," and he follows the kids into the cave, and they like immediately I'm like, man, the mother's a fucking bitch.
Yeah.
But like it's
too good.
For me it's like done to a point that I couldn't believe is real, but I'm sure like parents become hateful of like survivor kids or dude, like because
she blamed him.
She blamed him for killing his brother.
Yeah,
but she was like, I always knew you were jealous. Like, she's the worst fucking piece of shit alive. Like, and the thing is, she would have been slightly the worst piece of shit alive before any of this happened.
What
I can tell you from most psychology standpoints with a mother, when it comes to one child being the reason another one died, they do go through that stage. Sometimes they get the help they need to get away from that and fix themselves. Sometimes they don't.
This is where like the most interesting part of this entire show lasts 15 minutes, which angers me because there's so much to unpack there. I would have loved them to give a bit more time to that scenario, and the way that it's handled with them going through it, kind of like Scrooge. Goes through shit. It's like it's interesting to see. The visuals, the way that they use the staircase over and over. He kept running up the staircase.
Yes, I like that. My favorite scene of the entire show, is him outside his mom's house after the funeral, the services or whatever. It's not Oscar Isaac is that put like
the yarmulke.
That whole performance put him on a different level for me as far as an actor, because I didn't really know much. Too good for the
show, man. Too good for the show. I'm telling you.
What's that?
Too good for the show.
But the thing that
without him, the show would fucking die.
But the part that is the really big heartbreaking thing is. And it's great because the show doesn't say it. It's just all in the emotion, which is but it's too good. Is Steven is a result of the abuse that his mom gave him, right? And his mom's dead. His mom is gone and forever, but he still loved her so much that it broke his heart and broke his mind to the point where he had to go back to Steven again. And I'm like, motherfucking, like that is...
Too good. I'm telling you.
We broke the world 2 episodes ago, and then we get into this shit. So, but Heather, what were your thoughts on? Give us your feedback on this episode. I mean, were you kind of in the same boat with us? My
2 complaints of this entire episode.
Oh God, more complaints. I'm kidding.
Just there's only the two.
Yep.
I still love this episode because of all of that. But the two complaints is the hippo is a goddess who has been doing this for thousands upon thousands of years.
Yep.
But yet we still get I have a card for that. Hold on. I have a card for that.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense.
What?
Yeah.
You know this by heart by now. The other one is at the end of this episode where Steven turns the boat to save Mark. And he's like, Steven, you got this. And Mark, you've got this. But if I'm you, then I've got this too. It's like,
yeah, there's
that was
a definite like separation.
That was a Disneyism if I ever heard one before. Like that's like fucking like the prince finally believes in himself.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I felt a little something when Steven went off the boat and he froze in the sand. I knew shit was gonna be fine.
I knew something like that was gonna happen because of the fact of where it was going.
But I was like, oh shit, they're actually gonna fucking, or at least tease it at the very least, you know.
I kind of hate that they don't like follow through with it. To be honest,
I know, but
I was like, okay, well, the only character I care about is gone, so why am I watching the show? But just before we go on, I wrote down episode 5 is too good for this series. I'm not in love with the show, but Oscar Isaac is just big dick flopping on this role. And he crushes it throughout the whole series, in my opinion. But that particular scene when he's crying on the street, I'm just like that puts him. I don't give a shit what other bad performances he have. He's now one of my like yeah.
But
oh my god!
Comment on the dad's hair.
Oh yeah, he's fucking Egon.
Egon.
It starts out here when they're little boys. It ends up here.
I don't get haircuts.
Justice.
The one thing I have to say though, and I wrote this down too, is I like the side asylum story way more than the actual story, which is a huge problem with this show.
Which side asylum? What the
whole side story of him being dead and being in that fucking psychiatric ward. Yeah. That is way better.
Yes.
Than the actual storyline of this fucking show.
Might as well bring this up. So I did mention how there was like a couple of small Easter eggs hinting to other things in the MCU. One of them is the you have to like stop and look to see it. In one of the fight scenes in the episode where he's fighting the jackal, you can see a poster or a truck for the Global Reparations Fund from Falcon and Winter Soldier, the group that was supposed to like help with like refugees and whatnot. The other is when Towrette mentions the I'm trying to remember the name of it, the Forever Plane or the Afterworld in Black Panther. She refers to it, and so what's interesting?
The ancestral plane.
What's that?
The ancestral plane.
Thank you. The ancestral plane. Yes. So what's interesting here is that basically they've established in the MCU in this one brief moment that essentially the afterlife is, and we'll obviously, the afterlife is not only a big place, but it's also dependent upon what you believe in. So if you're part of Wakandan culture, you'll go to the ancestral plane. If you're part of Egyptian culture, you'll go on the boat. And we'll later learn from other movies and properties coming on that if you're so basically, depending on where you go or what your beliefs are, you will go to that equivalent of that great beyond. Which
where did Tony end up? Nowhere.
The infirmary.
He ends up in the digital world.
Superhuman Cyber Squad. But that's just interesting to note because that's more. It's going to be head tilting question mark. It's interesting because again we haven't really dealt with much as far beyond Doctor Strange and Wanda. This is another supernatural side that we really haven't explored too much, and so now they basically said like, oh yeah, you just go wherever you believe in, and spoiler alerts, we'll learn that also is the case with spoiler 3, 2. Norse mythology as well when we get to Thor: Love and Thunder, but we'll get there.
Valhalla.
But episode 5 knocked it out of the park for the most part, even though I do agree with you guys' nitpicks of it, though. I'm not going to lie on that one. But episode 6, which is entitled Gods and Monsters, is where we have the big old Marvel fight.
Did not like this episode.
Layla receives a message from Tauret telling her to find and release Khonshu so he can revive Marc Spector. Arthur Harrow uses Amit's powers to slaughter the other Egyptian gods as avatars before releasing Amit, who chooses him to be her new avatar, while Layla finds Khonshu's Ushtabi and releases him. Ushapti. There we go, Ushapti. Layla refuses to become Khonshu's new avatar, so he confronts Amit alone, who overpowers him. Meanwhile, Marc Spector refuses to stay in the fields of reeds alone and chooses to return to the Duat and rescue Stephen Grant instead. Yeah, damn it. Spector tells Grant that Grant saved and enabled him to survive his hardships, and their connection frees Grant from the entrapment of the Duat. With Tauret's help, they escape through the gates of Osiris and awaken back in their body. Khonshu then senses their return and bonds with them again, healing their body and restoring their powers. Layla discovers that Amit can be defeated if several gods' avatars bind her to a mortal body, so she temporarily bonds with Tauret. Harrow, Amit, and their followers begin judging everyone in Cairo until Spector, Grant, and Layla and Khonshu arrive to engage them in battle. Harrow overpowers Spector and Grant and almost kills them until they both black out and reawaken to find that they have somehow brutally defeated him. Wonder how that happened. Spector and Layla are able... What's that?
And everybody around them, too.
Yeah, they beat the fuck out of everybody. Spector and Layla are able to seal Amit into Harrow's body, imprisoning her again. Khonshu urges Marc to execute Harrow Amit, but Spector refuses and orders Khonshu to release him and Grant from their service. Spector and Grant find themselves in the imaginary psychiatric hospital again, but reject it and choose to continue their new life together. And then we'll save there for the mid-credit scene in just a second. But,
So this episode is fucking ass. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's
anticlimactic.
It's like
in my opinion.
I don't need the big like fucking fight or whatever.
I mean,
I love
the giant Ahmet.
The thing is, I loved Loki, and that ended in a conversation. This one, however, does the same thing it's been doing from the beginning, and cock teases and disappears. And I'm gonna tell you right now, like after watching this, I looked up like the character of the third personality, and I'm like, it don't impress me much.
Latest Gators.
He's a cab driver. Okay, cool.
I know.
Yeah, it ain't good. So visually, again, looks like shit. And they rely so heavily on it. Like, it's so bad. Everything looks terrible in my mind. Like, while watching it, I'm like, man, this is not... You can't rely heavily on CGI and put this forward. You just can't.
My problem is that this feels very anticlimactic.
Yes, it is.
I would have honestly...
Who wants to see big fucking lizard versus a dead bird?
I didn't... I can take the CGI. I can take the horrible CGI. I'm at this point...
Like, the concept behind it is stupid, too. I don't want to see it. I don't care about that.
In for a penny at this point for me. I'm riding that train till it burns. But I would have infinitely preferred if they switched the last two episodes. Infinitely.
Yes.
Infinitely.
Yeah, well,
imperfect.
Gotten rid of the last episode entirely. Like,
well, they had to wrap up some shit.
The thing is, I don't give a. I would have okay. If they switched them, then Ethan Hawke is kind of more of a psychiatrist than he is this fucking hobo monk with the broken leg.
Right. I mean, obviously there would have to be things we'd have to clean up, but in terms of build, anticipation, and payoff, the payoff was the fifth episode. The
fifth episode is the best episode. It should have ended the series, and I think this episode should. Parts of this episode should have been taken and infused in like the third and fourth.
Right, but so my thought process is though, like we all agree the fifth. Well, we all agree the fifth episode's the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
To me, and this is just my opinion, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I said in the first episode that we're introduced to like, the new Stephen Grant, blah, blah, and then we're introduced like the holy fuck, and then like everything happens and we're trying to figure things out along the story as it goes along the way. So the idea is that the payoff should be, we know not everything, but we know enough of the situation that's going on. Obviously we're teasing the third character, which we'll get into in a second, but that's the payoff. right? The payoff's not Ahmed or Ethan Hawke.
What's the most interesting thing in this show? It's his character. The payoff should be the
Knowing
reveal
his
of his
character, yes.
Yeah.
So
especially if they're gonna do what they did with this episode.
Switch. They had to like wrap the shit up they needed to. And
I hated the the fucking flash forward and everyone's dead and he's like in control. I didn't want to see them fight, but if you're gonna do it that way, that's even more of an excuse.
Well,
to
again,
they're
they're
not
leaving
do
the
it
door
at
wide
all.
fucking open, obviously. But Heather, I mean, what were your thoughts overall about this episode, and specifically like the fight scene, like the closing end with the whole with Harrow and the kaiju fight and him getting trapped and all that stuff, and Khonshu letting him go.
I want to talk about the negotiation scene.
I did like the negotiations.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie.
Jumping back and forth between suit and suit.
I did like that scene.
Them saying, "We'll do this for you, but you gotta let us go."
Like the sound of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the chaoticness of jumping between Steve and Mark in that scene alone was just like, all right, I can tell right now the fight scene is gonna be that, and that's gonna fuck with everybody. Now we fast forward, fight happens, and Van gets flipped over. She stops it from completely flipping over and gets the people out. She, of course, takes the little girl out first, which
I hated this
of the van to get her out.
I didn't really understand what happened there. I thought like it was gonna fall on a girl.
She just the girl just appeared in her arms. It's like, wait, what happened there? And then,
so
of course,
terrible.
Are you an Egyptian superhero?
Oh my God. That line alone, I was like, fuck this shit, honestly.
Yeah, she sat there and was just like, yeah, I am. It's just like, no, honey, you said temporarily under this god's avatar. Temporarily. So, no, you're not an Egyptian superhero. Once this night's done, you are done.
I hate that, like, we have to include the fact that we made the first Egyptian superhero. It's like, you don't have to say it directly to your fucking audience. It's that heavy-handed fucking horse shit that Marvel does that really turns me off.
I'm not gonna lie on that one.
Yeah, then we have the fight between Khonshu and Ahmet. It's slow-motion giants fighting. So it's literally taking 5 years for a hit to land.
Boring.
Someone said, why isn't I saw on Twitter when this episode happened, why isn't someone trying to stop these two? And I'm like, and someone's like, dude, after the shit they saw from Endgame, this is a fucking norm at this point in time.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, did someone forget Khonshu just rewound the world 2,000 years in the past? Like, yeah, no fucking shit.
Like, if you took out that big fucking Megazord fight, would anybody really give a fuck if it didn't happen?
No.
It's like, again, unnecessary CGI for some fucking reason. I don't get why they utilize this thing so heavily. There's a moment in this where his suit comes on him, I guess. Yeah. It looks so terrible as well.
Yeah.
There's the one thing I wanted to actually add to before we finish up with this episode, because we're getting to the end. Where is it? What the why does so she becomes an avatar and she becomes
the Scarab is her name. I think Scarlet Scarab, excuse me, is the name.
She gets this cool hawk outfit or whatever the fuck it was.
Yep.
Where is Ethan Hawke's outfit?
He has the staff.
He's had the staff before.
Amit's just a shitty.
He needs to leave him in monk clothes.
Well, I guess Amit's just a
shoes.
shitty god, and Ethan Hawke's the.
I'm like, man, everybody else gets an upgrade. This guy is like.
You don't get shit from me.
I will make your staff purple. Good luck.
Actually, he had that beforehand, so fucking fine.
Yeah, he gets nothing, but he has super strength apparently.
You will be my avatar. Now go. Don't take anything. I said go. All right.
Why did I do this?
I'm starting to rethink my decisions. I am very upset. So of course, the mid-credit scene, we see a crippled Harrow is being abducted from the psychiatric hospital, and is of course what?
Wasn't he always crippled? Now he just gets a fucking wheelchair for no reason.
Sedated.
Fine. Handy capable. We see him getting taken over to a limo where he is approached by Khonshu in a full suit, which, by the way, him in a suit for some reason looks like infinitely better than whatever the fucking robes he was in.
It doesn't make any sense to me, though.
The nice guy from Cuphead.
Why can he see him?
Why can he see him? Because he's in a different plane of existence now.
He's in the afterlife.
They saw, what's his name? They saw Tauret.
Okay.
Boom! I don't know.
Who the fuck is Tauret?
The hippo.
Oh. No, I was talking about, like, why can fucking Ethan Hawke see him?
Because he's now in the plane of the afterlife.
Yes.
Why is he when he's still alive?
Because he's presumably... well, he was.
They didn't kill him. What are you talking about?
They kill him.
No, they didn't kill him.
Right. But now he's dead. So
Not yet. He's not dead yet.
They're using his body as a vessel for Amet.
Yes.
So therefore, his consciousness is so severely subdued that it's in another plane of existence.
However...
Does the show tell us that? Or do you
Yes.
guys just...
You have to surmise it from the spell that they did, which I want to know how the fuck Marc Spector and Layla knew that spell.
Probably Khonshu somehow. I just blame it on Khonshu. But then at the end of the mid-credit scene, they do kill him. So,
oh, God.
So it is revealed.
Introducing that third.
Yes. So it is revealed that Khonshu was saying that how he was bonded to Marc Spector, not because of Marc Spector, or that Marc Spector was afraid that he was going to take Layla as the new avatar, but rather the fact that Mark and Stephen Grant have a third personality with them known as Jake Lockley. And it's revealed that he's the driver, and it goes to show that he executes Harrow right in the limo as they drive away from the psychiatric hospital to end, presumably, season 1 of Moon Knight. Lockley is a very cold... I mean, you know how like Marc Spector is like... He's a killer with a heart of gold. Jake Lockley doesn't have the heart. He does not. He does not have the heart of gold. I know Basement's like, I'm not impressed, which I get. But, hey, now it's a fucking Three's Company party.
Mm-hmm.
Three's Company.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Spectre and the new one have... too much in common. It's like, I'm a killer. I kill all these people. Oh, I'm a killer, but I don't care who I kill. Okay, cool. Then you have this fucking British nerd. Like,
that's Australian.
Why did he create the other character?
We'll have to find out now, won't we?
Wow.
My dad.
From what I gathered from that, I don't think Mark himself created that one. I think Khonshu created him.
At this point, fucking Mark.
I could care less, to be honest.
So here's a problem
I do not want
have.
to see a second season of this.
Here's the problem I have with this from a writing standpoint. I don't mind. Jake Lockley is comic accurate, which I'm not. Fine, whatever, cool. I don't even have a problem with them introducing Jake Lockley as a third character or teasing him as a thing. My problem is that one of the most unique and interesting aspects, which they still could do this, by the way, but I don't think they're going to be able to do it as much, is the conflict between Mark and Stephen Grant. And I felt like at the end of the series, it's all like, we're all good now. Now, that's probably not the case, and there's other things they could explore and deep dive into it, but I felt like they tied it up almost too nicely into a perfect bow when it came to that. I feel like there is so much conflict you can put between the two of them in terms of situations with other heroes. There's so much.
You don't really need a third, in my honest opinion, at this point.
That's what I was about to say. On top of that, how are these fights going to go? Are they going to be...
You won't see him.
What's that?
You won't see him, so don't worry.
Yeah, great CGI.
No, it's just going to fucking teleport to the end.
All right, guys, and we're about to have this big three-way brawl and fight.
7 days later, with the bruise on his nose.
That's what my worry. That's what yeah. That's what worries me is that it's gonna lean. Which is kind of, again, it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, yes, it's the most interesting aspect about Moon Knight and his character, but by creating conflict within, ironically, said one character, you're gonna have a hard time telling a story. But I mean, sky's the fucking limit. I don't know. Either way, I still fucking love Moon Knight.
I feel like if what I'm looking forward to in the second season is the addition of that third personality, I have zero interest.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
It depends.
Like the way he's portrayed is I just kill people and don't care. Okay.
If it's a copy repeat of season 1 in terms of how they handle the story.
Depth? You're not gonna have the depth of character at all. Like the differences between Spector and fucking Grant, or I think it was Grant, right?
Yeah.
Between those two, at least the difference is like it's the dichotomy of being like completely innocent, like fucking pussy, versus like killer and like Mr. Military, and it's like, well, what if we add just maniac that kills people that is a cab driver? It's like,
if they carbon copy season 1 into a season 2 and then just replace the conflict internally with Mark and Steven with adding in Jake, I want nothing to. No, I'm right there with you. If they're able to make it an undertone where it's a side thing that they're going to branch off and continue on further down the road and establish it more with more focus, or season 2 is all about that. It could,
how much like life the show has left in it for me.
I'm just saying it could work. I'm not saying it would. I'm saying it could. But obviously, my thoughts. I still enjoy the ride, despite the flaws and them fucking destroying the world 3 times over with fucking Khonshu. I'm gonna throw it to Heather on your overall thoughts of Moon Knight. What would you rate it out of 10? The highs, lows, everything in between.
All of the lows in this show and all of the highs that were sorely missed in this show. I do not rate this show very well. This is WandaVision levels for me, because if it takes you, I mean, if you capture me with the first 2 episodes, usually I'm good. I can sit and watch through the show and all of that. This, you couldn't even do that. It took me, I mean, episode 1 was good. We got into the story with that. And then episode 2 and Dead Man Sitting in Thin Air got me to the point of, God, here we go again. And I really had no interest to really fully pay attention to the show again until episode 5. And then episode 6, the season fucking finale, sat there and made me go, fuck you, Marvel.
Fair enough.
So, with that being said, I cannot give this show any higher than a 2.
Ooh, a 2.
I am brutal. Yeah.
God damn.
Marvel do this to us with the series after series.
Kill me.
I am not going to be generous anymore.
God damn. Pierce my fucking heart. Basement, go while I recover here.
You know what? Like the thing that I'm learning, the thing that learning with Marvel is like, and they should learn, is too little, too late.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, like I said, this is why I don't want to see a second season. You couldn't even do a first season. You did 1 episode. Yeah, episode 1 was okay. It wasn't like fucking, oh my god. Like, there's a reason I didn't continue after episode 2, because I wasn't like biting at the fucking bit for more.
Yeah.
Episode 5 was really well handled. I mean, they can. The thing is, Marvel needs this fucking padding of shit around everything they do for some reason. It's like, yeah, but wait till you get to the good thing. Well, maybe just give me the good thing and don't make me eat shit for 4 hours.
That's no fun.
No matter like that. Outside of that, and that's the storytelling part of this. The pros, obviously, the acting. Oscar Isaac is really good, and without him in this, portraying that role, this would have been a fucking failure. And this like opened my eyes to other Marvel shit, where I'm like, they are so lucky that they made the money they made in order to hire the people they hired, because without them, without fucking basically some of the best actors in the world, their product would be fucking ass.
Yes.
Say what you want about like Marvel's CGI, especially on Disney Plus, but this show it took me out of it with how bad it looked. It's like CW level stuff. Oof. And I know Trek loves the CW, but like when I can tell so blatantly that it's so fake because it looks like something made 10 years ago from a company that makes billions upon billions, it's a bad thing. It's a really bad thing. I would never go down to the 2 is so rough.
The 3.
2.5. No. I like there's a lot of things I like in this, and I like more than I hate.
Yep.
What was the last thing we reviewed?
Spider-Man.
I gave that a 6.5. Like how many? They just can't tell story for fuck's sakes. Okay, I'm gonna go with like a 6.
That's actually exactly where I was gonna go with that. Was a 6. For me, I think I said this. I said the same thing about Spider-Man. That for me, are there negatives? Yeah. But the positives and more so the potential for the future.
Well, I don't really see potential in this one.
Well, I meant more for the character, not necessarily for season 2. Has me hopeful. I think that it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And like I said at the beginning of this review, I'm biased because it's a different story. It was told differently. And I'm a sucker for the Egyptian lore. So like all that, I'm like already like, woohoo, all right, let's do this. I think the idea, like episode 5 was really like, that's what really, really sold me on this. Specifically Oscar Isaac's performance and him being able to pull off this character or characters. Everything else was kind of like, I didn't hate Ethan Hawke, but I like, it was just fascinating of like how much.
Does he have to be there?
You could replace him with fucking Plank from Ed, Edd and Eddy, and he would do just as good of a job.
Like Khonshu, I think, is a very intriguing character in its own right, and the concept of like Egyptian gods, new afterlife areas that we could explore, like stuff like that was very fascinating to me, and that's why I said like the biggest. In some cases, the biggest plus for me is the fact that this isn't like direct. Like it's obviously part of the MCU, but it's almost not referenced in any major way to other MCU characters and properties, which to me makes it a huge plus because you can now explore new avenues and aspects that haven't been explored yet and kind of get away with some shit. But like
Marvel exploring that.
What's that?
It just feels like Marvel exploring that.
I know. But it's at least different, which I'll take. So that's kind of the main reasons why I kind of rated on the higher side. I think the story of like Amit, but everything else for the most part, mostly focused around like Marc Spector and Stephen Grant, was pretty when they were focusing on like the origins or the backstory was good shit. So yeah, I think 6 is probably a fair sentiment to do that one. But with that being said, we spent a lot more on Moon Knight than I thought we were going to go to, but we kind of went all over the place, so that's understandable. But that's going to do it for Moon Knight. So once again, we knocked one out of the park. We're getting that much closer, God damn it. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and joining us here live on the stream here on youtube.com/hornygoat. Or if you guys are listening to us on your favorite podcasting platform, whether it's Google, Spotify, Apple, whatever it is, or if you're following us on social media at the Horny Goat 1 over on the Twitter, make sure you're also following us on the community tab too over on YouTube, as we're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff, announcements, posts, polls, all that fun jazz and whatnot. I want to thank obviously my good cohorts here, Canadian Basement and Heather, for putting up with my shenanigans once again on the Marvel Roundtable. Fam, was there anything else you wanted to add in before we wrap up this edition?
Ooh,
no, I think I'm good.
Shit.
What's that?
Still like 2? Oh my god.
What's that? What?
When it's not the first series that you do this shit to me too, I get mad.
I can't wait to see what she rates.
I know where I'm going with.
I can't wait to see where she.
At this point of what I've seen of that, -500.
Of what?
You know.
Attorney at Law?
Yeah,
Oh,
negative
yeah,
500.
oh yeah, we'll get there. But I want to thank everybody for joining us once again. That's going to do it for this edition of the Marvel Roundtable. When we return, we go back to the big screen, but this time we're going to explore more of the supernatural side as we introduce America Chavez, various variants. Of course, everyone's favorite Sorcerer Supreme Wong makes his return. Also, so does the Scarlet Witch as we explore Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.